Good morning, everybody. First, thank you so much to Congressman Dan Goldman, Congressman Richie Torres, and Congressman Robert Garcia. Without you, I don't know where we would be. It's unbelievable to be an American without a representative that you can rely on in Washington for anything. So we have come to Representative Goldman, Representative Garcia, and Representative Torres over and over again, and they've always been there for us. So really, thank you so much. Yesterday, during the debate, we heard a lot about precedent. So we're here to tell you that George Santos's lies are indeed unprecedented. He has never represented the will of the people of New York '03. So folks are worried about, is there going to be a danger if we get him ousted, expelled without a criminal conviction? I would say it's far more dangerous to send the message to the American people that you can lie your way into Congress. You can perpetrate the largest election fraud on the American electorate ever, and then you should just go right ahead and serve in the highest bodies that are making the most consequential decisions about the American people. What does that tell other candidates? What does that tell our young people? Clearly, it is far more dangerous to leave him there. So how did we get George Santos? How did we in New York '03 end up with this charlatan, this liar, this criminal as our congressman? So if you go back and you look at the paperwork and you look at the emails and the texts and the press, you'll see it was actually a very conscious decision by the New York and the Nassau County political machine, the GOP political machine. And what I'm talking about here is Representative Elise Stefanik and GOP chairman of the party, the Republican Party, Joe Cairo. It's very clear that the knowledge about about Santos's frauds were known a full year before the election. There was plenty of time for them to choose a different candidate. You've all heard about the vulnerability study. That came out a long time before the election. What they should have done is look for a candidate with some integrity. But instead, Joe Cairo and Elise Stefanik decided to double down on this guy. And here we are, a year later. Yes, as Congressman Goldman said, everybody knows that George Santos does not belong in Congress. So how do we resolve this? We have been reaching out to our Republican leaders on Long Island and across New York State for 11 months to get their help. Congress, the House of Representatives, is run by Republicans. The only way we can get him out is if the Republicans decide it's time to get him out. So we've been in touch with Joe Cairo, we've been in touch with Elise Stefanik, we've been in touch with all 5 of the what are known as the vulnerable Congress members who came in as part of the freshman team with George Santos. And I'm talking here about Congressman LaLota, Congressman D'Esposito, Congressman Lawler, Congressman Molinaro, and Congressman Williams. They were all elected and they were put forward by the same corrupt political machine that put forward George Santos. And we have been trying to get them to do the right thing for 11 months. For 11 months, we have had a tremendous amount of lip service from these folks. So is today going to be different? Are we going to get more lip service from them? Are they going to say they want him out? They're going to say that he's unfit, that he's a stain? Maybe vote to expel him, but actually do nothing to get their colleagues to actually do the right thing and vote to expel Santos? If this vote fails today, it is an absolute reflection on Congressman LaLota, Congressman D'Esposito, Congressman Lawler, Congressman Williams, and Congressman Molinaro. And what it speaks to that too is their weakness, their inability to get their colleagues to vote to expel this charlatan. It is so clear that if they can't do this, what can they do for their constituents? It really begs that question. So what we're looking for them to do is to tell the leadership right now, they should not be having their Starbucks. They should be in the leader's office right now, telling them that if they don't get George Santos out today, if they don't get the Republicans to vote out George Santos today, that those 5 will actually no longer vote in lockstep with the Republicans' agenda and hold them hostage until this is done and this is done right. So with that, I thank you all. I'm going to turn this over to my friends, and I didn't actually say, let me tell you first quickly what Concerned Citizens of New York 03 is. We are a nonpartisan ad hoc group that came together in January. None of us knew each other. We were just joined by the hip because we were so outraged and disgusted by having George Santos represent us. And so I'm from Great Neck. I live in the district over 30 years. We're going to hear now from Kim Kaiserman, who is from Port Washington and has also been in the district quite a while, and was also on our steering committee. So Kim.
Thank you, Jody, and thank you to Congressman Goldman for the opportunity to be here today. As Jody said, my name is Kim Kaiserman. I'm from Port Washington. I have lived in the district since 2001. When our organization, Concerned Citizens of New York 03, first came together 11 months ago, the Santos story was big news. People were outraged. And frankly, we thought George Santos would resign or be expelled in a matter of a few weeks. Pretty soon, it became clear that it was not going to be that easy. In our fast-paced media age, we were going to have to work very hard to keep the Santos story in the public eye and to ensure that we, Santos's constituents, remained at the center of it. That's why we came down here to Washington, D.C. for this historic vote. As a reminder that well more than 700,000 people live in New York 03, and we have the same rights and needs as every American. For 11 months, we have been without meaningful representation in Congress, without an advocate to bring home needed funds, without a serious policymaker to amplify our voices, without a competent office to provide constituent services to vulnerable people. Every day that George Santos has been in Congress has been a day that our rights have been disregarded and our needs unmet. Sitting in the House yesterday, we heard George Santos call his colleagues hypocrites and part of the swamp as he blamed them for Americans' distrust in government. He presented himself as the victim, not the voters he lied to, the donors he defrauded, or the constituents he has denied representation. This was no surprise. It was exactly the kind of nonsense, deflecting, and excuse-making that we expect to hear from George Santos. What was disturbing was to hear some members of Congress still covering for this con man by arguing that expulsion would deny him due process and violate precedent. Both of these arguments are deeply flawed. George Santos has been afforded due process through the House Ethics Committee, and Congress's constitutional power to expel does not rest on criminal conviction. The Ethics Committee findings show what we have known all along for 11 months now, that the fraud Santos perpetrated on voters is unprecedented, and that to allow him to remain in Congress for his entire term would actually set a dangerous new precedent, normalizing blatant criminality and denigrating the rights of voters. We hope that members of Congress, all of them in both parties, will see through these arguments and vote to expel George Santos today. Thank you.
And now we're going to hear from Susan Naftal. Susan is from Plainview, on the other end of the district from where I live. Susan?
Thank you. Also, I want you to know that I've always lived in this district. I grew up in this district. I moved back with my family, and so I'm a permanent New York 03 resident. And I think it's important to know what Santos has put the country through his lies and through his fraud. New York 03 never voted for this man. We voted for a carefully crafted illusion that he created to try to hit on different segments of our population. His mother died in 9/11. He knew that in our district, unfortunately, we lost many, many people during 9/11, and it's a real sore point for all of us. His grandparents survived the Holocaust. Well, our district also has a very large population of Jewish people, and he played on our historical pain to try to gain votes like that. That he graduated from Baruch College with 2 degrees and worked on Wall Street. Well, many of our residents actually do work on Wall Street and have 4-year diplomas that they actually earned. That he had employees that died in the Pulse nightclub shooting. Well, many of our constituents are gay, have loved ones who are gay, and who are strong supporters of the LGBTQ+ community. We heard in the debates representatives saying that they can't go against the will of the constituents. Well, we're here to tell you the will of the constituents is to remove this fraud. Over 80% of us, that's both Democrats and Republicans, as polled, want him gone. It's not a partisan issue, it's a right and wrong issue. Santos tried to play the victim yesterday, as you all heard. We, the constituents, are the victims. We have no meaningful representation and have not had that for almost a year now. We deserve and demand better. One more thing. We all know that Santos likes to wear those red designer shoes that he probably paid with defrauded funds. I'm wondering if he's going to like his orange jumpsuit as much as he appreciates his red shoes. Thank you.